Well, good morning, everyone. We're thinking again about those four pillars of the building of our fears that we thought about in the last videos. Remember the four pillars of, we said that COVID-19 has shaken our health, our family, our money, and our leisure and pleasure. And all those aspects of the building are shaking at the same time. So this morning we're going to think about the issue of our health. And remember what we were saying is that our fears about our health, our bodies, have really been there all along. So we liken that to a cup. Remember we had our cup last time, and saying that our fears were already in there, the contents were already there, but COVID-19 has just allowed those fears to overflow under the severest pressure and the shaking that's been going on. Now we know that our fears have always been there about when it comes to our health and our bodies, because our culture is obsessed by our bodies. If you think about it, the diet and the exercise, the health and the beauty. But in a sense, if we think about it, we've played it a bit of a game when it comes to this, a bit like an aging model. We've kind of covered over the wrinkles of reality to the fact that we can delay the process, certainly, but the inevitable is coming. Whether we like it or not, whether it is COVID-19 or not, each of us has to face up to the reality that one day that we will stop breathing and we will die. One Christian writer put it like this, that in a sense we live our life in a queue towards the crematorium, and all that happens is that each day we just move up a little bit further in the queue. Now that's pretty blunt, isn't it? But it is true. And all that COVID-19 has done is, in a sense, has opened the door to that reality. In a way, we, in our culture, have sort of thought, in a sense, that we've put death somewhere that we can't see it, out of sight and out of mind, the kind of preserve of the hospice or the old people's home. But the door's been opened to all that. And the reality for us is that we now see it more clearly. It opens up the fear, therefore, of death itself in a way that we haven't experienced before. And particularly, what lies beyond death. We're realising all the things that we cling to now can't actually save us. No matter how good the NHS is, it can't save us. No matter how good our diet is or our exercise is, ultimately it cannot save us. What can save us? Not just from the physicality of death, but what is beyond death. Perhaps that's the thing that we fear the most, and perhaps we should fear the most. See, when it comes to Jesus, he would say that death is a ever-present reminder of the fact that we have turned from God, that we are not God, and that when we die, that we will be called to give an account for the lives that God has given us. And so there's no wonder or surprise, in a sense, that we fear for our health, because we fear for death and what lies beyond it itself. Now, I'm reminded when I look at the book of Luke, how there's such hope in this for the Christian. So one day, Jesus, as were many days of his life, the crowds were gathering in around him, and there was one man in particular, on one particular day, who was absolutely desperate to see Jesus. His name was Jairus, and he had worked his way through a crowd and pushed and shoved to get to the front, where he desperately fell before Jesus for the sole reason that his little daughter, 12 years old, was back home in bed dying. And as he falls before Jesus and implores him to come to his home, one of the household of Jairus comes at that moment and says to his master, "Don't bother the teacher anymore. Your daughter has already died." And it's at that moment Jesus says the most extraordinary thing to a grieving father. In front of all of those people in the crowd, he looks a grieving dad in the eye and says, "Don't fear. Just believe she'll be well." Now that is an astonishing thing to say to a man who's just lost his 12-year-old little girl, isn't it? They're either words of someone who is completely deluded about their ability, or or they're words of somebody who's supremely in control and knows exactly what's going to happen. Jairus gambles on the latter, and asks Jesus to come to the house, and they work their way through the crowd and they get to the house, and Jesus then discovers the weeping mother and the whole household, and then says another extraordinary thing. He says, "Don't weep. She's not dead. She's just sleeping." And people laughed at him, understandably, but Jesus takes the parents and a couple of his closest followers to the bedroom of this little girl, and the corpse is lying there on the bed. And Jesus takes the hand of this 12-year-old dead girl and says, "Child, arise." And we're told immediately she got up. Her spirit returned to her, and they gave her something to eat. Now, what does that tell us about Jesus? It tells us that he can raise people from death as easily as you or I can raise somebody from sleep. There's a kind of earthiness to this, isn't there? There's a physicality to that story, that encounter, that we kind of recognize the importance of physical life, of relationships, of being able to eat and walk and run and laugh, to be a little girl. You know, one of the reasons that sometimes people find it hard to believe Christianity is that they have an assumption or an idea in their minds that life after death will be a kind of cloud, dreamlike experience. But when Jesus was raised himself and appeared to his disciples in the upper room, he said, "Have a look at these wound marks in my hands, and put your finger in my side, and I'm flesh and bones, I'm not a ghost. Is there anything to eat? I'm hungry. Let me show to you that I have a real physical body. I'm not a mirage. It's not a floaty, dreamlike existence." You see, our instincts are right. Death is an invader into our worlds. It came as we turned away from God. And all that we value as good, the relationships that we enjoy, the experience of sun on a summer's morning, and the smell of cut grass, all those kind of things are good things, and we instinctively know that they should go on. You see, that's why our health and our bodies matter to us, because they matter to God. The physicality of this world, the created order, matters to God. He made us that way, and he's made us as body and soul, not just soul, but body and soul. It matters to him so much that he took on a body in the person of Jesus Christ, and he is remaining in that body with its wounds forever and ever. That's how much our bodies and our souls matter to God. The Bible puts it in this way: he took on a body that he might redeem our bodies. You see, in a sense, CV19 is all it's done is really sharpened our hearing. There are lots of voices, aren't there, that we will be hearing right now. Lots of voices that will be saying the equivalent of, "Don't fear, just believe, keep calm, carry on, trust what the government is saying, trust your healthy exercise, keep taking the vitamin pills," and all the rest of it. But we need to work out, where are we going to place our faith? Are we going to place our faith in those delusional voices, or in the voice of the one who's in complete control, that we might hear him say one day, for you and for me, "Child, arise"?